Hello and welcome to another Home Inspector M.D video. Today, we will dive into a bit of a controversial topic. Can you use different brands of breakers in an electrical panel, such as Siemens, Eaton, or Square D? Our standard during inspection is to call this out as a condition, but I know some inspectors don't see it as a problem, and some people will swear there is nothing wrong with this practice, as it's been in the panel for years. To be clear, this discussion is from a Canadian perspective, and I'm limiting this discussion to the most popular brands here in Canada. These are Square D, Homeline, Siemens, and Eaton. And I'll touch on Fair Pioneer just a little bit because there's still millions of them in homes. Also, we're not going to deal with Eaton's classified breakers either. These are made to be used in other manufacturers' panels, and this is not the issue we see in panels here in Canada. Finding different manufacturer breakers and other brands of panels is fairly common in electrical panels today. And the reason is simple. If it was an electrician, most likely they didn't have enough of the proper brand on hand and just put a competitor brand as a placeholder to be changed at a later time. So what brands of breakers does this affect? Well, first, Federal Pioneer breakers are not affected. These breakers are considered a half-inch breaker, which has a very unique connection to the bus bar. And these breakers are known as stab lock breakers. Second, Square D QO breakers are also not affected. These are considered a 3/4 inch breaker. And again, they have a very unique connection to the bus bar, as these breakers have a clip-on type holder and an open type connection. Now that leaves us with Homeline, Siemens, and Eaton. So how do you recognize each one is easy. Homeline here does not actually say Homeline. It shows the parent company, Schneider Electric, with a white label in Canada. You can tell it's Canadian because it has CHOM on the label instead of HOM. Eaton breakers have their information printed on the label with the Eaton logo and the type BR. The Siemens breaker has Siemens printed on it, but it also has an angled on-off embossed on the front. Now that's a nice and easy tell when viewed from a panel. These brands are similar in that they are considered a standard 1-inch breaker, and their panel bus bar is similar in design. They also hook onto the panel in a similar manner, as you can see here. But when we look at the actual connection point to the panel bus bar, here we see a slightly different design for each brand. Let's take a close look at the metal connection. Our sample panel that we're going to use to connect them is a Homeline panel, as it's the only one I have right now. Let's install each breaker on this panel and see how well they connect to the bus bar. Now let's take a look at the connection. Of course, the Homeline breaker here fits perfectly, but Eaton's and Siemens have a big problem with the Homeline panel, as you can see here, as it is way off. The Siemens and Eaton breakers are much more similar to each other than the Homeline breakers, even though they are all considered the same format. I've seen many panels in houses with these breakers installed on each other's panels, although I tend to see more Siemens breakers in Eaton's panels than the other way around. Many times, people would not even know the difference. They're still getting power to their devices and none the wiser. Now, you may ask, if they fit in their panel, then why write it up as a condition in your reports? Well, just because it fits doesn't mean it's correct. I know the argument would be that, well, it's been there for years and it still works. That's certainly true. But that's like saying, well, I have 2 prong receptacles in my house for decades and it still works, so why fix it? Even though they fit, their connection contacts are slightly different. But let's take a close look at these breakers and what they actually say. Here on the Eaton breaker, we see this: use only in listed enclosure. Now on the Siemens breaker, we also see on their label, use only in listed enclosure. See, that's their way out of liability if you install a different branded breaker in a panel. Now, let's take a look at this Homeline panel and what it says. It's even clearer of the message. Quote, use of other than Schneider electric circuit breakers may adversely affect user safety and impair reliability. Schneider Electric disclaims all liability for damage, injury, or non-performance caused by the use or failure of non-Schneider Electric circuit breakers. That's even more clear. The electrical panel manufacturers only test their own breakers for proper performance and certification, not their competitors. So there is no guarantee that the breaker will work properly over the long run. This brings us to the next point, liability. If you have a fire in the house and the source was electrical, the insurance company will see the wrong branded breakers in the panel, and there's a chance that they will use that against the owner. So why take that chance? Finally, many of the conditions inspectors report on are based on not being best practice, and wrong branded breakers in a panel is not best practice. It's a condition that should be reported on, as even though it may have been working perfectly for years, I think the homeowner should be aware of this potential danger in the house. And as always, any electrical work should be done by a licensed electrician. Well, thank you for watching our video. And if you find the information here useful, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And think about us for your next home inspection. Hey, interested in more of our videos? Check out these.